Simply disappointing. That's how Florida Governor Rick Scott described the Supreme Court's ruling on health care. The court upheld President Obama's Affordable Care Act. Florida was one of the states challenging that law. So what's next? 4 states like Florida that want it out. Who better to answer that than Florida Governor Rick Scott himself? Good morning, Governor. Nice to see you.
Good morning, Randy. You know what's so disappointing is, the issue we have in healthcare, it's a cost issue. It's not an insurance issue. This doesn't do anything to drive down the cost of healthcare. So we've got to rely on free markets to drive down the cost. This isn't going to do it. So we're not going to implement it. We're not going to put it in the exchange.
Let me ask you about that, because the states still have options, and one of them is on health insurance exchanges, and the other is the Medicaid expansion. So you're saying that you're not going to implement either one of these. I'm curious as to why.
No. Well, let's first off talk about the exchanges. The exchanges are not going to drive down the cost of health care. I mean, the issue is the cost of health care. It's going to do nothing to drive down the cost. With regard to the Medicaid expansion, it doesn't work. It's about a $1.9 billion increase for our state. Our taxpayers will be paying for that. It's not doing anything to improve the cost of health care. We need jobs in the state. We don't need another government program. Every government health care program runs out of money. They always overpromise. They always run out of money. They don't pay providers properly. Then there's no care for those individuals. We're not going to do that in Florida.
But even without the exchanges and the Medicaid expansion, and as far as I understand it, about close to 1 million people would be added to your Medicaid rolls there in Florida. But there are still hundreds of thousands of Floridians who will have to get insurance. Your state ranks second in the percentage of people without health insurance. And now they need it and aren't going to get the help from you. So what do you say to them? Too bad it's just bad policy, or?
Here's what we're doing to help people in our state. Step one, we've had the biggest drop in unemployment of any state but one in the last 18 months. So what we're doing is making sure people get back to work so they can afford health insurance. Second, we're working with the free market to make sure the cost of health care in our state stays as low as possible so people can actually afford health care and buy their own insurance. Our focus is on getting people back to work. Don't put more people on a government program that will always run out of money and ration care. It's bad it's horrible for the patient. It doesn't work.
You used to work, though, in the healthcare industry, and hospitals are saying that they need the states to participate, states like yours, to participate in Medicaid expansion. I mean, they were counting on those additional federal dollars. So they could be in financial trouble without that. So what do you say to them?
Randy, if you look around the world and you look at America, look at every government health care program, what they do is they say they're going to cover everything, then they run out of money, then they don't pay providers well enough, and then people don't show up. So it doesn't work. I'm not going to put our citizens at risk of a program that doesn't work. So we're not going to implement this Medicaid expansion. These exchanges also don't work. If the exchanges work, the private sector would already be doing it. They don't work. I mean, think about what this is going to do. It's got the program has guaranteed issue, which means if you don't have to buy any of the insurance until you get sick, what do you think is going to happen to insurance rates? They're going to skyrocket.
So do you believe that you can actually bring insurance rates down in your state without this?
Well, you surely can't do it by implementing it. I mean, if you implement it, rates are going to go up. It doesn't work. I mean, we've already seen rates go up because of this. We've got to rely. Look, here's what works. What works is give individuals the choice. Let them buy the insurance they want to buy. Don't tell them what insurance they need to buy. 2, make sure people know what health care costs are. Have providers disclose their prices. Give people the same tax breaks individuals as employers get. Buy your own policy so when you change jobs, you don't lose your insurance. Finally, reward people for doing the things that would drive down cost. Don't smoke, eat right, exercise. Have more competition. Competition will drive down the cost. If we do those things, the cost of health care will come down. That's our problem. It's the cost of health care.
Governor, I want to switch topics because I also want to ask you about a bit of a victory that you've been experiencing this week. A federal judge ruling against the Justice Department's effort to stop you from removing some voters from the rolls, voters that you say are on the rolls illegally in your state of Florida. What does this decision mean for Florida?
Well, it was a nice win. I mean, look, I don't know anybody that believes that non-U.S. citizens should be voting in our elections. So the Department of Justice sued us. A federal judge says, look, our citizens will have irreparable harm if non-U.S. citizens vote in our races. I can't imagine why the federal government doesn't want to help us. They have a database. Department of Homeland Security has a database that would help us do this, and they haven't given to us for whatever reason. But we won last week.
You've been working for some time to try and get those names, correct?
Absolutely. We've been working for almost a year. I have no idea why the federal government doesn't be supportive. We want to have fair, honest elections in our state, but only U.S. citizens should be voting in our elections, not non-U.S. citizens. No one thinks that way. This is not a partisan issue. This is not a Republican or Democrat or independent issue. No one believes that non-U.S. citizens should be voting in our races.
So how many people are you talking about? I mean, how many have actually been found that were voting illegally?
Rand, here's what we know so far. We did, because we couldn't get the Homeland Security database, we used our own motor vehicle database, and we just looked at 2,600 names. We know over 100 people have registered to vote. They're non-U.S. citizens, and we know over 50 have voted in our elections. So we know people are registering to vote that are non-U.S. citizens, and we know they're voting. That's not right. It's a crime, and it impacts our races.
Florida Governor Rick Scott, great to have you on the program this morning. Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
You
Bye-bye.
too.